Hello, baby. Hello. This sound's gonna work. Let's see if this sound's gonna work. I have no idea. I'm just thinking about real estate and people's experiences. I don't ever want to get so into the industry and into this field that I forget what it's like. And I never have. I've never forgotten what it's like for that first experience of trying to buy a home as a young married couple. It seemed so scary. It was just very intimidating. It seemed like we're going to be locked in and stuck. That was, I don't want to say the wrong mentality because it was how we felt. I'm sharing this just in case other people feel this way too. It was part of probably just a maturing, probably just a growing up part of life. Life does this to us. I had a bit of a different perspective. That was the scariness of being locked into a mortgage. In reality, my father-in-law got through to me. He said something by the time we did end up buying our first home, which was not till 2008 or so, during the middle of that whole housing market crisis. What really got through to me and made sense was, Shanti, you're always going to need to live somewhere. You're always going to need to live somewhere. If you have a place that you're locked into a price, that's actually, instead of being a scary thing, it's actually a security, it's a safety net. I had it in my mind at the time that we are trapped, we're stuck. I don't know why it didn't occur to me that we could always sell our house if we needed to. To be fair, during the housing market crash of 2008, people were buying houses they really couldn't afford, getting very creative with their financing, were getting themselves into some very bad positions. There was some predatory lending happening. There was a lot of it was people were getting loans that they shouldn't have gotten because it wasn't just because you qualify doesn't mean that maybe that's a payment that you can afford. Those things can be managed, may not be the best thing for your financial security. Some people are really clever and pull stuff off. I get ahead of myself. Going back now to 2005, 2005, is that how you would say that? My husband at the time and we've been married for a handful of years. We probably should. That's kind of the next step. We were tired of living in apartments, as cute as they were. It was still that we had really good landlords for the most part. That's the insecurity. The benefit of renting was if something went wrong, we called the landlord and they take care of it. We never knew if the rent was going to go up. We never knew if they were going to sell the property. It was just kind of hard to feel secure. It didn't really matter because the funny thing is we had this false sense of security in the fact that we could just pick up and go. We can just put our notice in and we can just decide to go. Did we ever do that? No, we didn't. So we were living in this little bubble of we could if we wanted to. We never did. Maybe we should have. That's not really too realistic for most people. We got brave. We started looking around our neighborhood. There were some really cute houses for sale back in California. We got in touch with the realtor that my parents used. That's often the case for real estate. There are plenty of realtors. There's lots of realtors. It really just comes down to a connection. If your parents had a realtor and they realtor, look at me started on that, if they had a good experience, that's probably who you're going to talk to. They're going to like, did you like who you dealt with? It's nice to just know and not have to do the research and just like you liked it, you liked your experience, I'll go with them. That's kind of the way it works in realty, which is why in my mind there's no insecurity about having to be the best. There is no do the be ethical, have good integrity, be there for your clients. Your clients are going to find you or find your clients. The realtor that my parents used was not available. She was swamped. She referred us to somebody else. It ended up being such a terrible experience. It really soured us from wanting to even look. We didn't look for a few years, maybe 3 or 4 years after that. I don't recall this gentleman's name. I'm not just trying to crap talk this guy. I will always remember that experience as an insecure, cautious, curious, if this could even be something that would work for us, young couple. It was shot down. It was shot down hard. As soon he was willing to talk to us until he heard our budget. When he heard the price point that we were looking in, it became so obvious so quickly that he did not have time to waste on clients like us. I remember talking to my mom and being like, I don't feel shitty about myself in life in general. I'm finding myself feeling pretty inferior right now. I don't care for this situation. I don't care for this feeling. My mom was wonderful. We had a great talk, and she's like, "Don't. That has nothing to do with you. Nothing to do with you at all. That was a foolish move on his part. Everyone has to start somewhere. Never feel pressured to spend beyond your means ever." She was right. I didn't waste too much time in that state of mind. That really, again, this is years before I ever knew I was going to be a realtor myself. That stuck with me. It's like everybody starts somewhere. Everybody has a first home. Real estate's kind of like a board game. if you're familiar with Euro games, these strategy games where you are building your deck, for instance, or you're building, like you're acquiring, the whole first part of the game might be acquiring resources, acquiring things to then create more resources. And then once you get enough resources, then you can use that to build a little empire. That made sense to me with real estate. Here we were, a young couple, so excited, wanting to spread our wings and fly. We were shot down. What a crap situation. Like, I, I, I just think about that now and I think, what a terrible waste. And not even because it was personal against myself. I thought, how many other people are out there? And I don't, none of the real estate agents that I know would do that, to my knowledge. This man must have been in a, maybe he was just balling. Maybe he just had so much business with $1 million properties in Central California that he didn't have time for a $115,000 little hunting. We were wanting to find this little, we did not have fancy taste. We wanted, we grew up in older neighborhoods. We loved bungalows. We ended up finding in 2008, 20, no, it was a 1925 bungalow. It was, to this day, one of my favorite places I've ever lived. It needed a lot of work. Put a pin in that. We didn't look for houses again. We believed him when we were given the impression that we were in no position to be buying a house if we couldn't buy a bigger, fancier house. I'm. It's unfortunate that we let that affect how we saw our situation, because in reality, you find the right agent. You find the right agent. You find the right financer. We absolutely could have found a house. There were houses on the market. The market in California at the time went from houses in our neighborhood that we had walked by every day for years, and as renters, and walked by and dreamed, oh, if we have a house someday, wouldn't it be great to have it like this? They were going for 75,000, 50,000, 102,000. It was like that. Of course, at the time, for us to be, our budget's 115,000, seemed very still scary. Just crazy to think of now. We didn't look. We didn't look. We felt like we were not. We were a little inferior when it came to financial things. In reality, we could have. What a shame we missed that opportunity. Things always happen as they should. Fast forward, after the huge market crash, housing crisis in 2008, we ended up finding. And I talked to the same realtor that my parents used. She was unable to, the market was different then. She was able to help us out. And we bought a foreclosed on house that didn't have electricity, that needed the bathroom gutted, the kitchen gutted. It was bad. The people that lived there didn't have electricity for several months before they were evicted or foreclosed on. There was melted candle wax everywhere because they were using candles for light. We put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that home. It is by far just one of my absolute best memories, even through all the hard work of places to live. Houses from the time we were looking in 2004 ish, that were like 75,000 on average, went up to over 400,000, as I recall. We were looking at neighborhoods, our neighborhood of homes, that a year prior, I forget the exact timeline of how, in a very short time, shot up. I know that this home that was $75,000 before is not worth 375 now. It's just not. Of course, it wasn't. It was inflation. It was this very false bubble that absolutely did pop. I remember thinking, we're never going to get to buy a house in our neighborhood. We just watched it pass right through our fingers, slip through our fingers, and is gone now forever. Of course, that wasn't true. We didn't know it at the time when the housing market crashed. It certainly made things very complicated to buy a home. There were a lot of short sales and bank loan properties. As soon as that house, the houses that we were looking at that were hyperinflated dropped back down, we ended up buying our home, a 3-bedroom, 1-bath bungalow. It was about 1,300 square feet. I loved that house. We bought it for 115 or 114. Of course, it grew in value. Of course, time passes, and that's the way the market works. I will always remember that. I guess this is a long story to talk about the fact that you're worth the time. Like, you're worth the time. Don't ever let someone make you feel like your budget is not worth their time. That just means you haven't found the right agent. Look for the right agent. Everyone has to start somewhere. Everyone has to start getting a little bit of skin in the game. It is just absolutely remarkable what you can do if you are wise in your investment, wise in your home purchase. You have to start somewhere. That's that leap that I was so afraid to make. Making that leap is what got us in the game of homeownership. I have not regretted it, not one day. buying that little house for $115,000. Looking back at the story, it has gotten us to where we are today. You put money into it, you put time and sweat and blood and tears into it. You let the market do what it does. You sell, you move up a little bit if you want to do that. I remember my mother-in-law at the time saying that this was great for a starter home. You need more room later. That's okay. A lot of people do want more room. That's great. That keeps the market going. Yay for people that want to upsize. That's good for me as a realtor. I always laugh because my journey was we somehow bought up until my current home now. We somehow bought smaller and smaller and smaller, which was kind of funny to me. I don't know why. First house was 13,000-ish square feet. The second house was 1,000 something square feet. The third house was 900 and something square feet. Then we moved to Idaho, got a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house that was 980 square feet. Then got divorced. Then we were able to, things worked out well. We were both able to then have our own home. None of that would have happened had we not made that leap at the very beginning to do the scary thing, which was get committed to a mortgage. Looking back, you always have to pay rent. Why not be paying it into your future? Why not do that? That makes sense to me now. I realize that we're not always in a place to buy. If you are, it truly is, as coming from someone who was terrified to do that, to make that commitment, make that leap. I'm telling you right now, it is so worth it. It really is. Whether you talk to me or somebody else, don't ever think that you can't do it. There's some pretty creative things out there. There's creative and safe things out there to do. It's certainly worth looking into. If you're interested in buying in the Twin Falls Magic Valley area, you're not sure if you can make it work or not, please talk to me. Deserves a chance. Everyone deserves a chance at that American dream of owning your own home and all of the headaches and responsibility and joy and happiness that comes along with that. Anyone that's a parent understands. Is having a kid work? Heck yeah, it's a lot of work. Is it worth it? 1,000 times over. And just compared a house to a child, which maybe is not so great, but it's one of those things. It's worth it. It is worth it. So passionate about home ownership. I think it gives you an edge, an advantage in life. It just, there's something about not being so, I don't say prey to a landlord because that makes it sound like landlords are evil. I'm sure they're out there, but in general, it's just a business. Everyone needs a place to live, and sometimes you got to rent, and that's fine too. But if you're able to, think about it. Think about it. And never let someone make you feel like your budget is not worth their time. Everyone deserves a first home, second, a third, a fourth. This is how life works. Anyway, if you have any questions, I'm Shanti. Live here in the Magic Valley, live down in downtown Twin Falls. I love this area. I love this area. So please feel free to reach out. Let's have a conversation and for listening.